Welcome back, everybody. This miter saw over here has been plaguing me for the longest time. Not the saw itself, the saw is wonderful, but the station has been halfway built for a little bit over a year and a half. So today we're gonna fix that problem. There's not a whole lot to be done. We're gonna throw some tops on, we're gonna face frame it, we're gonna add drawer faces, obviously, doors, and then paint. It should be an easy project. Let's see how it goes. When I had first built the Mitre Saw Station, I never intended for it to have a 1/4 inch OBS top as the permanent fixture for about 2 years. It was always intended to be a temporary top where I could just set things down until I was gonna be able to hide it underneath the permanent top, which is what we'll end up doing today. I also back then never anticipated building things and showcasing them on YouTube as potential tutorials for other people. So I didn't film the first half of this build. This is why you're picking up essentially in the middle of a project, but that doesn't mean that there won't be plans. I'll make sure to make those as soon as I finish the workbench plans, which will be unfortunately not done until next week. But I am almost done, so no worries. Going back to my choice of tabletop, I just used a 3/4 inch sheet of MDF. Now I had heard that this was going to be a pretty budget friendly and actually really viable option for a worktop. So I decided I'd give it a shot. I smeared it quite a bit of glue in between the two sheets and made sure I spread it out evenly with my little silicone roller that makes spreading glue a breeze. It also makes cleanup about 100 times easier than using, I don't know, a paintbrush or anything else. Once I had that sorted out, it was time to secure the two tops to each other. Now I just gave it a little tap to get it exactly where I wanted it, so that way once it was there, I didn't have to mess with it at all. Now that these two pieces are joined together, they are quite heavy. So I secured it from the bottom up with just some random screws in various locations spread out, making sure I didn't add any to any potential areas where I'd have to cut through the top for maybe adding T-track or anything like that. Then I took my makeshift track saw and ran it across the front to just give me a nice even transition between the two layers. Next was easy peasy. It was time to throw the miter saw back up and cut some long strips for a border around the tabletop. Now this is going to be similar to what I did when I did the glue up station on the workbench. I used a sheet of MDF for that as well, and to protect the corners from any kind of chips or dings or anything like that, I just add this border using any kind of scrap wood that I have. Here I have a bunch of pine. It's a soft wood, that's all right, but if I am to drop a project that I'm working on and it hits the edge, then I'd rather the workbench dent than whatever it is that I'm building at the time. This is primarily to protect the MDF. MDF is really soft when it's hit from the edges or from the sides. It has a tendency to kind of tear up, and so I don't want to do that. It's much easier to replace a thin strip and knock the nails out than it is to replace the entire top of the workbench. Also, it's a lot cheaper. So when dealing with shop furniture, it doesn't have to necessarily look the best or be made of the best material. It just needs to be functional and serve its purpose. Once I got my tabletops completed enough, it was time to get the miter saw back into its home. If you'll notice, I have these little gaps on both sides. This is because when I had first originally built the miter saw station, I didn't actually have my miter saw yet. So I started the project with the anticipation of getting a miter saw, and this meant that when I got my measurements, it didn't account for the little handholds that are actually on the side of the bottom of the miter saw, which stick out just about 1/8 of an inch. So I had to make some adjustments to the table. It's a problem that we'll fix later. I also ran into the problem of, back when I was building it originally, it was my first big project, and I wasn't really as adept with the table saw, so I didn't know how to fine tune things all that well. And that left me with about 1/8 of an inch where the miter saw sits a little bit higher than the table on the left-hand side as well. And so right now we're fixing that issue, and I'll explain right now how we fixed that issue a little bit more in depth. But the gist of it is I can't have the left side of the table sitting too far down, because then I'm not supporting pieces. So when I'm cutting longer pieces, I need that support. All right, so now we're fixing a mistake that I made a 1.5 years ago. When I measured this, I was off slightly. Now I don't know why. Maybe, I mean, it's probably about the thickness of my table saw blade, so I'm willing to bet I just messed up on my measurements. Everybody makes mistakes. So what I'm gonna do is, now I have my block that goes the exact height of my top right here for the miter saw, and I'm just gonna hold it on here, and I'm gonna secure some 2x4s. This will make up the space, and then my new top will sit on this, which means, which means that the miter saw will sit in the rest of the spot. Now I will have to make an adjustment for the 3/4 of an inch, so I'll go to the bottom of here, really, and that will give me my perfect little bit of a raise, but not much, and I'll just do some thick screws there. So let's fix this problem. So in order to fix this problem and to attach this piece without any room to use any clamps, I just used some Gorilla Glue and glued this piece down after I found exactly what I needed. Here we go. Here's some spray to activate the super glue. And then, like I said, we'll just use that piece as a spacer block and butt up that 2x4 piece just right underneath. Now we'll hold that there for a few seconds, and then it was time to just put some screws in. I used a couple of 3-inch, I believe, 3-inch like deck screws or something like that I had laying around, and it was dead solid. It's definitely strong enough to hold the miter saw. So then I got the miter saw back into its home, and this would probably be not for the last time, because I still have to finish the top, of course. However, it was nice to have it back into its spot, and with a perfectly flush left side of the workbench. Now it doesn't really matter if the right side of the workbench is flush, but that fix did fix it on both sides, in case you were curious. And then it was just back to putting in this face frame just all the way around the workbench, and none in the middle there, because I had to make sure I cut these strips just a little bit shorter. This is because of that fit on the sides for the miter saw being so snug that I could really only fit about 1/8 of an inch gap in between each side. So it's protected, but it's not the biggest. Then I had this little space in the back, and this is just because I have kind of a concrete border as around the base of my garage. So I just cut this little thin strip to fit in there, nothing too fancy. Then it was time to move on to the face frames. So for the face frames, for paint grade shop furniture, I will typically just cut in strips and then work my way around the face of the project. So I won't waste my time with any kind of pocket hole joinery on the face frames like I would if I was building something a little bit nicer. This is paint grade, so if there are any seams, I can just put a little bit of wood filler in between them and paint over it. But with a finely tuned miter saw and a little bit of patience, you can create these butt joints on this without having any seams in between. That's what I ended up doing, so it'll save me a little bit of time in the prep for the finish, but overall it was just pin these on there. I didn't even use any glue, and just take your time and make sure everything's straight and exactly how you want it. While I finish the face frames, this is a good time to remind you guys just to stick around until the end of the video, and I'll be announcing the winner for that giveaway, and then I'll also give you details on any future giveaways that I'm going to be doing and how you can enter those. And before I knew it, in just about a day's worth of work, my face frames and my tabletops were completely mounted where I wanted them, and it was time to move on to the drawers. So the drawers I did on day 2, and at this point I had a ton of MDF laying around. It was time to either use it or lose it. So I cut my sheet down to the right width and then just started cutting my drawer faces at whatever height I wanted them, remembering that I still am going to add the pine border to protect the edges. So I have to account for that additional space when making these cuts, but it was very fast work just running them all through. Luckily for me, I did plan ahead and all of my drawers were about the same size except for my top 2. With everything cut and all of my cuts being perfectly straight, it was time to just pin these into place. Now you could use glue to give yourself an extra bond, I guess, if you wanted to, but I thought that just a few brad nails held in from all the sides would fit, and then I can just cover up any holes later when it's time to actually prep for the paint. Now, while I get all of these edges taken care of on my drawer faces, I wanted to ask you guys your opinion on the drawer faces that I'm doing essentially. So I had seen on a couple of different places that, on a couple of different websites and a couple of different videos, that with MDF you can pretty much just use them as the drawer faces, and whatever paint you're using will be enough protection for the corners, as long as you add a little bit of a chamfer and you don't have too harsh of corners to ding up. You can get away with just using the MDF sheet itself. You don't have to add a border like I'm doing here. And I wanted to get your opinions, see if you guys had any history with doing any of that, and if you guys have had any luck. I don't anticipate building much more shop furniture, but I do have a little bit of a workbench planned for the back wall of the garage. And if I can save myself, I don't know, maybe about 30 minutes to an hour doing the drawers, then why not? So if you guys watched my workbench build, then you've seen how I mount drawer faces. And if you haven't seen my workbench build, then I will try not to repeat myself in these videos. Otherwise, I will drive myself crazy. Go watch that video, or better yet, subscribe to the channel, and soon I'll have shorts posted that you can quick reference all of the little things that I do over and over and over again. So that way, if you need to refer back to it on a project, you can do so. All right, guys, so unfortunately that does it for this week. We just plain and simple ran out of time. So I was able to get the tops done, the face frames, and the drawer faces. And unfortunately, I did start cutting down the lumber for the doors, and we were gonna complete the doors, and then I was going to paint off screen because I got a new sprayer and I don't 100% know how to use it. So it's gonna give me some time to figure that out. But lucky for you, I guess, I messed up on the doors. My stiles needed to have another inch so that way they could fit into a rabbet that's gonna be right there. And I just measured wrong. So measure twice, cut once is what they say, or you can be like me, you can measure 3 times and still cry once. So that puts us at a little bit of a delay, but what we are gonna do is we're gonna announce who won the giveaway that was announced in my entryway organizer video. I've got a bucket or a little bowl here with some names in it. And if you guys want to be entered for another giveaway, we're gonna do one at 1,000 subscribers, and it's gonna be everybody who subscribed from 0 to 1,000. Anybody who comes a little bit late, unfortunately, you'll kind of be out of it. But there's the incentive to hit that subscribe button down below right now, and we can get you into it. So let's see what we have. You see they're all folded nicely, and we've got our winner here. Tony Lopez. You commented on that video. I don't exactly remember what you said would be a cool build, but reach out to me. My email is on my actual YouTube page, or I'll sift around your profile and see if I can find your email. But we will build you something cool and I will send it your way. Let's just decide together what you want that to be. So that'll be fun. Let's finish this next week, and then we'll move on to our storage on the far wall, and then we will have a nice clean workspace where we can start building some maybe finer pieces for inside of the house or whatever Tony Lopez wants. So I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to subscribe down below so that way you guys are entered into the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. And I've got a lot more giveaways coming because you guys are what are motivating me to continue with this hobby, and I absolutely love doing it. It gives me an excuse to come out here and build things, and sticking to a schedule keeps me motivated and actually keeps me from procrastinating. So huge thank you to you guys that are subscribing, that are watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.